The UN Security Council met on Tuesday to discuss the current tensions in the Middle East shortly after the ceasefire between Iran and Israel began. For the 627th day, the Israeli regime's occupying forces continue their genocidal war in the Gaza Strip with aerial and artillery bombardments. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro demanded respect for the self-determination of nations while reiterating his call for world peace. Hello and welcome to From the South, from the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. My name is Laura Rodriguez. We begin with the news. The Security Council met on Tuesday to discuss the current tensions in the Middle East shortly after the ceasefire between Iran and Israel began. The meeting discussed the future of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action launched in 2015 for the development of nuclear weapons. That program is in effective limbo since the U.S. withdrawal in 2018 and Iran's rejection of parts of the deal. UN Political Affairs Chief Rosemary DiCarlo described the U.S.-mediated ceasefire overnight between Israel and Iran as a significant achievement and an opportunity to avoid catastrophic escalation. Iranian ambassador to the United Nations amidst Iravani accused also the United States government of supporting the Israeli attacks on Iranian nuclear and civilian facilities and questioned the Zionist regime's justification for the aggression.
Israel has targeted Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, civilians and civilian infrastructure. Israel falsely justified these attacks on Iran's peaceful nuclear program as an imminent threat. This claim is baseless and has no legal base. In reality, Israel, the region's only undeclared nuclear-armed entity and non-party to NPT, refused IAEA inspections and monitoring, while Iran complies with the NPT and has subjected its nuclear program to the most rigorous IAEA monitoring.
On the other hand, Chinese representative to the United Nations, Fu Zon, accused the United States of initiating the Israeli-Iranian crisis by withdrawing from the nuclear talks with the Persian nation in 2018, by applying economical and financial sanctions against it, and by attacking its nuclear facilities during the recent conflict.
Has noted that some members of this council have done nothing but accuse Iran of violating its non-proliferation obligations in an attempt to justify the military actions of Israel and the United States. Here, China wishes to remind these countries of the following basic facts. It is none other than the United States that started the Iranian nuclear crisis. The United States unilaterally withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018. Thereafter, it reinstated and escalated unilateral sanctions against Iran and adopted measures of maximum pressure which prevented Iran from enjoying the economic dividends conferred by the agreement and forced the country to reduce fulfilling its obligations under the agreement. It is again the United States, throwing to the wind its own credibility, launched military strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities, undermining the negotiation process initiated by itself, leading the Iranian nuclear issue to yet another impasse and resulting in an abrupt escalation of the regional situation.
Meanwhile, the permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, detailed the objectives of the draft resolution while stressing the support of the Russian Federation for a peaceful solution.
Iranian nuclear program can only be resolved through diplomacy, through negotiated solutions, which are based on international law and the principle of equal and indivisible security. The Russian Federation consistently has supported a peaceful solution to the concerns surrounding the Iranian nuclear program, which is acceptable to all parties as well as the international community as a whole. Here, the greatest responsibility lies on the UN Security Council, which is obligated to take the requisite measures. This is the goal of the draft resolution proposed by Russia together with our Chinese and Pakistani partners. Today, we are proposing to our Council colleagues an updated text that takes into account the latest developments and aims to bring about a lasting ceasefire, as well as oversight of that ceasefire by the Security Council through Secretary General reporting.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. For the 627th day, the Israeli regime's occupying forces continue their genocide in the Gaza Strip with aerial and artillery bombardments. With political and military support from the United States and amid international silence and an unprecedented failure of the international community, Zionist troops are advancing their plan of ethnic extinction by killing, starving, and displacing people. After 20 months of siege and clear violations of the Palestinian people's human rights, Israel has left more than 180,000 people dead or wounded, more than 11,000 missing, and hundreds of thousands more facing famine and forced displacement. The most recent attacks by Tel Aviv on the Gaza population left a 13-year-old boy among their victims. He died after being hit by an Israeli drone while collecting firewood for his family in the Al Jun area north of Gaza City. Gazan children suffer the most from the war against their people. According to official UN figures, the Gaza Strip has the highest rate of pediatric amputations in the world. These alarming statistics reveal that 33% of all brain injuries, 26% of spinal cord injuries, and 70% of burns requiring surgery in the enclave are suffered by infants. The organization revealed clear psychological distress among children awaiting hearing services. Israel's actions have caused a humanitarian disaster that makes it impossible to provide adequate and timely help to these children. This worsens their situation every day and exposes them to other health risks. We change topics. World leaders arrived in The Hague, Netherlands on Tuesday for a two-day NATO summit to be held amidst internal divisions among the bloc's 32 allies. During the summit of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, allies are expected to endorse a new defense spending pledge to allocate 5% of their gross domestic product on security to fulfill the alliance's plans for defending against outside attacks. Leaders of member countries, which include several European nations, in addition to the United Kingdom, the US, and Canada, will gather for the summit, which will mark US President Trump's first attendance since taking office in January for his second term. The summit has been rocked by internal divisions in the midst of the Israel-Iran conflict, with the leaders of Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand canceling their participation. U.S. President Donald Trump criticized the Spanish government Tuesday for refusing to increase its defense budget to 5% of its GDP a day before of the NATO summit. The U.S. president declared that the European nation was a problem following Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez's decision not to participate in NATO's increased defense spending. On the other hand, Sánchez assured that 2.1% would be enough, an opinion that caused distress among the bloc's member nations. For his part, Trump said Spain's position was not fair for the rest of the NATO members, including the United States. According to the head of the Spanish government, a 5% spending would be irrational, counterproductive, and incompatible with his country's welfare state. We go to the United States, where thousands of voters are casting their ballots in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary elections. The race, which pits former Governor Andrew Cuomo, a well-known moderate, against Democratic Socialist Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani, has gained national attention and raised questions on the party's future. Cuomo is running again 4 years after his resignation as governor following a sexual harassment scandal. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party's progressive wing has rallied behind Mamdani, who gained momentum with a campaign focused on the city's high cost of living. Pending preliminary results after polls close, a final winner won't be known until likely a week later. The winner will go on to face the incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, a Democrat who decided to run as an independent amid public uproar over his indictment on corruption charges. More than 80,000 people were forced to flee their homes due to severe flooding in the southwestern Chinese province of Huizhou. State news agency Xinhua reported that rescue teams were dispatched to the two affected counties. This week, authorities issued the second level of alert in the capital, Beijing, which experienced one of the hottest days so far this year. According to Xinhua agency, some 80,900 people had left their homes by Tuesday afternoon, while tens of thousands of people were evacuated last week in central China's Hunan province due to heavy rains. At least 10 people were killed, 8 injured, and at least 15 missing in a landslide in the Colombian municipality of Bello, adjacent to Medellin. The authorities ordered the evacuation of a dozen houses that were at high risk of deterioration due to the material that fell on them, and those affected are already being moved to temporary shelters. After announcing the recovery of 10 bodies buried, the governor of the Department of Antioquia, Andrés Julián Rendón, asked to evacuate the area in view of the warnings of new landslides. According to the authorities, the landslide was caused by heavy rains that overflowed a nearby creek. Meanwhile, in South Africa, large floods were recorded, raising the number of dead to more than 100 people, including 37 children. The local government indicated that 94 bodies have been identified and handed over to their families. Meanwhile, the process to identify the remaining bodies continue. Authorities also assured that search operations will be extended and the death toll is expected to rise due to reports of missing persons. We have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro demanded respect for the self-determination of nations while reiterating his call for world peace. During the events to commemorate the 204th anniversary of the Battle of Carabobo, the Venezuelan president demanded respect for international law and the sacred right to peace, stressed that in the face of the escalation of conflicts promoted by the aggressor powers, it is necessary to hold a world summit of presidents to stop the war in the world. In this sense, he reaffirmed the resistance of the Venezuelan people in the face of the aggressions and sanctions of imperialism, highlighting the struggle waged by the liberating army 204 years ago against Spanish colonialism.
Today, when Zionism attacks Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and the Islamic Republic of Iran, when Zionism attacks the free peoples of the world, Venezuela proposes from Carabobo victorious, a summit of presidents, so that the madness of Adolf Hitler and fascism, which destroyed a large part of humanity, is not repeated.
President Nicolás Maduro also affirmed that it is fundamental to respect international law and put an end to all the wars that strike the world.
We demand respect for the self-determination of peoples. We demand respect for public and international law. We demand respect for the right to peace of peoples, and we demand the end of all imperial wars and the defense of the right to life as the most sacred right that has our peoples. No more Nazism, adventures that threaten the planet.
In other news, the government of Bolivia declared a national health emergency on Tuesday due to a measles epidemic after more than 25 years without reported cases of the disease. President Luis Arce highlighted that after an urgent meeting with the National Strategic Council for Health Emergencies, they took the measure due to the 60 cases reported. The health authorities informed that the Department of Santa Cruz is where most of the cases are reported and that 2 other patients are still under observation. For its part, the Department of Health Service of Potosí made a proposal to the Department of Education to start online classes to curb the proliferation of measles, since countries such as Peru, Brazil, and Argentina have registered deaths linked to this disease. This Tuesday, June 24th, marks the 100th anniversary of the legal imprisonment of more than 250 Venezuelan citizens expelled by the United States to the Terrorism Detention Center in El Salvador. Venezuelan migrants are being held in secret locations, cut off from their families, without access to their lawyers appointed by the Venezuelan government, and without an official list of the charges against them being made public. Venezuela has warned that it will not accept these forced disappearances disguised as legal formalities, where people are detained without trial, without defense, and without even knowing the reasons for their imprisonment. Such actions by the Salvadoran government constitute institutional kidnapping that flagrantly violates international treaties and human rights. Around the Brazilian Northeast, millions of people are out on the streets celebrating St. John's Day, which is a bigger street celebration than Carnival in many parts of the country. Our correspondent Brian Meyer has more.
It's June in Brazil, and June only means one thing in the Brazilian Northeast. It's the St. John's Festival, in some places lasting the entire month, other places starting on St. Anthony's Day, continuing to St. Peter's Day. But the most important night of this annual holiday is St. John's, and it's St. John's here in Caruaru, where an estimated 3 million people have come over the last couple of weeks to eat traditional foods centered around the corn harvest, coming from the indigenous tradition, to dance to Afro-Brazilian rhythms, and to see this mixed with a tradition originally brought over from Europe by Portuguese colonists celebrating midsummer, even though it's midwinter here. And this is done with bonfires and lighting off fireworks. So it's a kind of family holiday in which people of all ages come out to dance, to eat and drink with their friends. And if they're Catholic, to remember the Catholic saints. If they worship Afro-Brazilian religions like Candomblé, they know that St. John's Day is also the day that people in Brazil commemorate Shango, the Yoruba god. And it's just a general holiday feeling. Schools are closed this week, and everyone's out on the street having a good time here in Caruaru.
Cuba fine-tunes details for the 44th edition of the Caribbean Festival, to be held from July 3rd to the 9th. The city of Santiago de Cuba will once again host this traditional celebration, also known as the Fiesta del Fuego, which will bring together artists, intellectuals, and communities from all over the region to commemorate the rich cultural heritage of the country and other Caribbean nations. Through musical manifestations, dances, colors, popular activities, and social dialogues, the attendees will enjoy a great event that will also have Curaçao as guest of honor. So more than 150 representatives from Curaçao will be present at the event, which will strengthen the ties of friendship and cultural cooperation between both territories. In Chile, the 12th edition of the Bienal Saco, which will be held in the region of Antofagasta until September 14, began. Under the title Dark Ecosystems, more than 40 international artists from Mongolia, Brazil, New Zealand, Iceland, Germany, Argentina, and Ecuador will take part in this edition, presenting a diversity of particular works that dialogue with the territory through science, ecology, and memory. Several places in Antofagasta host this event, such as the historic pier, the X-Mill, and the desert, where they also seek to create a link between creation and the call for awareness regarding climate change. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Laura Rodriguez. Thanks for watching.